Welcome to 3D Builds. I'm Patrick McConville, and today we will be baking and building something for the dogs. We will be using our dog den construction set and our dog bone texture roller to make a dog house, which is completely edible for your best friend, and it will be made using a gluten-free pumpkin dog treat recipe. When you're ready to get started, grab your construction set, your waterproof blueprints, and all of your ingredients, and join me back here and we'll begin making our dough. To make the dough for your walls, first grab your blueprints and make sure that you have all of your ingredients. You will need for this recipe pumpkin puree, natural peanut butter where the only ingredient is peanuts in the peanut butter, molasses, and then here I have whisked together my dry ingredients, which are cinnamon and chickpea flour. You'll want to begin by adding your wet ingredients to your bowl. You can then begin to add your dry mixture, and you'll want to reserve about a quarter cup of the dry mixture, so add everything but that. And your dough should begin to come together as a clay-like ball that won't separate, and if it's still too wet, continue to add chickpea flour until you achieve the appropriate consistency. If it's too dry and crumbly, you can add a small amount of water and then knead it very well until you get that proper consistency. And then toward the end, you'll want to knead it with your hands until you have it nice and smooth. And when you have a clay-like ball, you can split it in two, and then if you're going to use it right away, you don't have to wrap it. Otherwise, wrap it in plastic wrap, and you can keep it in the fridge up to 24 hours in advance. When you're ready to begin cutting out your pieces, grab your construction set, and for this recipe, you will want to cut out 2 of each piece in order to make one dog den. So you'll need 2 of the front and back walls, 2 of the side walls, and then 2 of the roofs. And before you cut out any of your pieces, if you'll be using a texture roller, you'll want to roll that across the dough before you cut out your pieces. And then you can also use any other cutters that you might have on hand in order to cut out additional treats for your dog, or if you want to use them to decorate the house. So go ahead and line a few sheets with parchment paper and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And then you can begin to roll out your dough on the parchment paper. You'll want to use a liberal amount of you'll want to use a liberal amount of chickpea flour when you're rolling out your treats. And I recommend using a nice long rolling pin, and if you have them, dough bands, and you'll want to aim for a 1/8 inch consistency, so nice and thin. When you've cut out all of your pieces and you're ready to bake them, put them into a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes or until they're just beginning to turn brown. Then you can remove them from the oven and cool them in the pans for 10 minutes and then transfer them to cooling racks to cool completely. While you wait for your pieces to cool, you can make your mortar. To make your mortar, take 2 room temperature egg whites and add them to the bowl of a stand mixer or to a regular bowl if you're using a hand mixer, and then whip them until you get soft peaks. You can then add your 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and again, the peanut butter should be 100% peanuts. and then mix that together until it's well combined. You can then add a little bit at a time your chickpea flour until it has all been added. And in the end, you just want to take the crumbly dough and knead it with your hands, and you should have a pretty firm and sticky dough. When you're ready to assemble your dog den, first gather whatever platform you'll be building on. I'm going to use a 6-inch cake board in order to build my dog den on. You'll also need the egg white and chickpea mixture because that will be the clay that we'll be using to mold in order to hold the house together. And then I have a battery operated tea light that I'm going to put inside. And you'll also want to have a little bit of water on hand so that if your clay gets a little bit too dry, you can add a little bit of water. You can also take the build plan on the back of your waterproof blueprints and use that as a guide to follow along. But you'll want to begin by pinching off a bit of that chickpea and egg white mixture and rolling it out until you get a thin log. And one about that size is good. And then you want to just lay that down on your build surface and press it down so that the sticky clay adheres to the build surface. Next, I'm going to take one of my front or back walls and press that down into place along that line of clay. And you'll see it stands pretty well on its own, but you can always add a support if you like so that it doesn't fall down. We'll pinch off another log from our ball of clay. And then we'll place that on our build surface perpendicular to our front wall. And then press it down into the build surface just like we did earlier. And we can then take one of our side walls and put that aside for a second and roll out another thin log of your clay. Now take that thin log and press it against the side of your side wall. And if it's easier, you can press the side down and into it. And it should look something like that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water to make it a little bit stickier. Next, I'm going to press that down into place perpendicular to my front wall. So just carefully press everything together. And try to ensure that you have nice squared corners and clean edges. And you can pinch any excess clay off where it's not needed. And just try to work the clay into your pieces from the front and the back. And then we will repeat that on the other side. So just, again, add a log along where the bottom of that sidewall will be and press it down against your build surface. And then take another log and stick that to the front edge of your side wall where it will meet that front wall. And then again, press your sidewall down into the clay that you put on your platform and add a little bit of water if it's not sticky enough. And then just work your clay into the corners. And then roll out a log which will go where the bottom of the remaining back wall will be placed. And you can see that my platform is actually a little bit too small. I should have used something a little bit larger, but we will make do. And then I'm just going to wet the clay a little bit on the outside and then stick a log to the front or back edge of each side wall. And then take your back wall, and I'm just going to wet the clay a little bit on the bottom edge and the two side edges, and then press your back wall into place. And you can work your clay into the corners so that everything fits together nicely. And then again, just trim away any excess. And there we have our base structure. Next, we will apply our roof. And so you'll want to roll out 3 logs, one for the top edges of each side wall on one side of the house, and then along that top edge of the side wall. Okay, and then stick those to those top edges. And again, add a little bit of water if your clay is getting too dry. And then wet the clay along all 3 top edges. And take one of your roof pieces and press that down into place, making sure that the roofline edge does not protrude beyond the peak on either side. Okay. And now we will repeat that process on the other side. So we will add clay to the top 3 edges. On the other side, and then also along that center roofline edge. And then just wet the tops of those logs of clay that you just applied to make them a little sticky. And then we can place our final roof piece. So just pinch everything together and work your clay into the piece. And there we have our completed dog den. I'm just going to clean up and then we can come back and light up our structure. When you've completed your dog den, it should look something like this. And if you're going to celebrate your dog's birthday with one, you can go ahead and use a battery-operated tea light to light it from within. But I hope you would agree that this is a really fun project and one that I think your dog would love you for. So please feel free to make one, and if you do, please tag us at 3DBYLDZ, that's at 3DBYLDZ, or using hashtag 3DBYLDZ. You can find our dog den construction set and dog bone texture roller on 3DBYLDZ.com, along with all of our other sets. I can't wait to see what you build, and tune in next time for our next build.